Good afternoon, everyone. How's everybody doing today? I'm excited to be here. My good friend Dorothy Jackson has blessed the podcast this afternoon, and so I'm excited to talk to her. We want to talk to her about wholesaling. Many of you guys know wholesaling is one of the real estate investment strategies that we use, and it's one of my favorite strategies. I know it's Dorothy's favorite strategy. And so we'll talk about wholesaling. We may touch on some of the other real estate investment strategies. If you guys have any questions or comments, go to the comment section and we'll be more than happy to answer any question that you guys have. So, Dorothy, let's get started. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. But before I introduce myself and my service and my company, it would be flagrantly irresponsible of me to not publicly thank you, Greg, for allowing me this wonderful opportunity and privilege to share on your Wednesday, 12 o'clock noon podcast. I never take it for granted. I never take it lightly when you ask me to speak. So thank you, Gregory.
You're more than welcome, more than welcome.
My name is Dorothy Jackson. I have a house buying company. My company solves a lack of money problems for distressed sellers who own real estate whose houses have become a financial burden. My company is Real Estate Capital. I do real estate investing. I specialize in wholesaling residential real estate. My service provides fast and easy solutions for residential property owners who need to sell their houses regardless of the condition. My customers are burned out, tired, buy and hold real estate investors with rental properties. I currently have a service with an undeniable brand loyalty that already has support from the real estate investing community in the Washington, D.C. metro area. I am founder and CEO.
Very good, very good. And so, Dorothy, talk to us about what were you doing before you actually got into real estate investing and wholesaling?
Absolutely. I worked for the federal government, for the State Department for 11 years. But prior to me working for the federal government, I had this desire to become a real estate investor. The mentor I had at the time was a gentleman by the name of Albert Laurie. And I kind of think he's the grandfather of real estate investing. That's my personal opinion. But I got his books and I began to really get engaged in real estate investing. So when I started working for the State Department and with Washington, D.C. being a contractor city, I would ask the contractors at the State Department, for example, the electricians, the plumbers, I would say, hey, if I did this with an investment or investing to repair, could I do that just to test to see if what I was reading was true? And they would say, yeah. And in addition, you can do that, that, and that. And I said, good, I'm on track. So it was still several years before I began my real estate investing journey. I resigned from the State Department in 2003 to pursue my dream as a real estate entrepreneur. There was a lot of success, but I think there were more trials and tribulations, but I learned. And I did my first deal in 2004, but I didn't know exactly what I was doing. I had a real estate investor / realtor friend. And I, to this day, even back then, I write my own copy. So I would do my direct mail marketing to back then homeowners who were in pre-foreclosure, and they would respond and they would want me to buy their house and I wouldn't know what to do. So I would take it to my realtor investor friend. He would write a contract. It would be on the MLS and he would put it on the MLS, and the market was really hot in those days. and I would, get on the HUD-1, it would be a marketing fee. My first fee was $12,265. My next one was about $10,000. My third was for about $69,000. And so,
Wow.
yeah, the next year, and that's basically how I got started, in this business.
And then at what point did you actually quit your job?
I resigned in 2003.
And walk us through that. What was that? What was that like? Full of risk. You had what we call a good government job, and full of security. And to step out on your own, that had to be kind of a little challenging, tough decision for you. Walk us through that.
Well, I became introduced with Albert Laurie in 1991. I started working for the federal government in 1992. As soon as I secured permanent employment, I went to one of my supervisors, as a matter of fact, the director of the office, in 93. And I said, can I change my work hours from 8 to 5 to 7:30 to 4:15, because I didn't have a car. And that's when the 203K financing was open to investors as well, and not just owner occupants. Right. So I would look at properties from the HUD website, and I got off work, I would go home, change, and then take the train and the bus to these areas where these horribly conditioned properties that need to be renovated, were actually located. And so in my mind, because I'm a woman of faith through Christ Jesus, and I never look at, well, what if it can't be done? When people tell me it can't be done, I say, oh yeah, it can. And I say it to myself, because I don't have to prove to anybody, but that's just my spirit, my mind said, okay, no, I can do it because the Bible tells me I can do it. And so the whole 11 years I worked at the State Department. I didn't take certain jobs. I didn't take promotions per se, because I did not want the job to inhibit my ability to be a real estate investor. Now, maybe that cost me money. I don't know, but that was always my mindset, that I was a real estate investor. So then in 2000, I decided about 2001 that I was going to leave the State Department. I was just waiting for the day and the time. And I was, had been praying over it and confessing it. And I was in church one day in a business meeting, because my pastor, would hold business meetings for business owners. And I just heard God say, leave your job. And I began to weep. And then I said, okay. So that Monday I went to work, and I gave my 2 weeks notice, and I resigned from the State Department.
And what year was that?
2003.
And so you haven't looked back.
I have not looked back. And if I can just, quote a scripture, the Bible says that Jesus said, once you put your hand to the plow and then look back, you're not fit for the kingdom of God. And that was really a motivating factor in why I did not. And things got hard. I mean, things got horribly hard. And that's another story for another day. But things got horribly hard, but I never looked back. At that point, it was no reserves, no retreat, no regrets.
But there was preparation. You prepared to move to quit your job, and you had a plan.
Well, actually, I felt my job was inhibiting me from moving forward. So I just jumped. It was kind of like the only house I had ever bought was a house I lived in. I didn't start getting the success with the marketing, with the $12,000 marketing fee, the $10,000, until after I left the State Department. So the only money I had to fall back on was the money from my retirement. That's it. I didn't have any other resources. I just jumped.
Well, you've done a good job. And I think all of us, I obviously had to do the same thing. I worked straight out of college. I worked for the federal government, because I was in what was called at the time the Stay in School program. And so when when I graduated from college, I just worked full time for from the government agency I was working with when I was in college. they offered me a full-time job. Then about a year or so later, I became a defense contractor, and I had all the clearances, the top secret, polygraph, all that, but it just wasn't me. And so after a few years, I decided with a plan, and part of that plan was real estate, I was going to jump. And I said to myself, well, I can always go back. I've got clearances, I've got the education, I've got the experience, I can always go back, but that just wasn't the plan. And so I've moved forward. And that was back in 2000. No, that was nice. I'm aging myself.
It's okay. Age is a good thing. To get older is a good thing.
So that was around 93, 94. I've been an entrepreneur, full-time entrepreneur since then, 93, 94. Haven't looked back. But I think what that experience showed me was, number one, I can do anything. And also it told me that I've got to work even harder sometimes, because I always tell myself I'm running scared. I get up early in the morning and have my morning ritual. I'm making sure I do a to-do list, because we don't have a paycheck coming in every 2 weeks, which means we've got to get up and get it. But because of that, we're making more money than we thought we would ever make, and the sky's the limit. So,
Absolutely.
So I congratulate you for, taking that big leap of faith.
Thank you.
And it is faith.
It is faith.
But it's faith.
It is faith. Absolutely.
And so in terms of the real estate investing, you could have chosen fixing and flipping properties, buying and holding. You decided to specialize in wholesaling real estate. Tell us why.
It's just something that fell into my lap. It just began to be, a niche for me. I thought starting out, I wanted to fix and flip, and I will. And I'm definitely moving toward buying and holding. But wholesaling, once I learned how to wholesale, building your buyer's list, getting your phone to ring, learning how to quickly analyze the deal, putting the deal under contract, assigning it to your buyer, going to closing. And I basically taught myself that, because I got involved with people twice that did not have my best interest at heart. And so they, took advantage of me. And the second time I said, okay, enough is enough. It's time for me to learn this business. So I basically taught myself this business and wholesaling, because it was a quick way to earn cash, or to create and earn cash. And that's basically how I got into wholesaling. It just seemed like such a neat way to build cash.
I look at it as one of the best ways in terms of a real estate investor. I see a lot of fix and flippers, rehabbers that were rehabbing properties years ago that they're now wholesaling.
Absolutely.
And I think the reason behind that is just less risk.
Yes.
You're not necessarily dealing with contractors. The cash buyer does.
Yes.
Little to no money put up front. So you can actually wholesale with little to no money.
Absolutely.
You've got to be able to find the deals, and you're not using any of your own cash. You're not using your credit. So you're not even using your credit.
Correct.
And so I always recommend for novice investors to get started off in wholesale.
Yes. And I believe that, but there's a lot of work involved in becoming a wholesaler. For me, it did not come easy. Maybe for some of your viewers, it did, and it will. But for me, it did not come easy. I really had to learn, and I'm a lifelong student, and I'm still, learning on different ways to do things in my wholesale business to make it more, user friendly for everyone involved: the seller, the buyer, me, the title company, the appraiser, the lender, everyone who's going to be involved in that deal.
Yeah, and that's what you have to do. We try to close our deals in 2 to 3 weeks, so we try to obtain a cash buyers list that we can call, that we know that those cash buyers can close. We have confidence, because if they can't close, we're not going to make money.
Absolutely.
I think the main part of wholesaling, in my opinion, is kind of what you said, is to be able to find deals.
Absolutely.
The investor or the wholesaler that can find the most deals is going to make the most money. And
Absolutely.
so when I started my career, that's all I've ever focused on, is finding deals. And so speaking of finding deals, why don't you let us know, how are you finding your deals?
Great. To go back to the segment of this podcast, structuring your wholesale business for the current environment. And the current environment for me is COVID-19. And so as business owners, we always have to be in tune to what cycle we're in. For example, in the Great Recession of 2008, investors who were able to, who had a large sum of cash, the lenders who had real estate owned, a lot of investors that I know made a lot of money buying real estate owned properties. That was the cycle back during that dispensation. Now we're in a COVID-19 environment, and things have forever changed. And so as a visionary, I pondered extensively on what target market would best fit my business model in this, pandemic environment. Hence, burned out, tired, buy and hold landlords, and real estate investors with rental properties, because I figured they were taking a big hit in their cash flow, with tenants not having to pay or not paying because of eviction moratoriums. So that's how I came up with burned out, tired real estate, buy and hold real estate investors with rental properties. So I bought a list that said, I'm looking for burned out, tired, buy and hold real estate investors that have rental properties. My demographics were 50% equity between the years of 1925 and 1980. And in specific zip codes. And one of the interesting things I found when I started prospecting this list and sellers started calling me is that all these properties have at least 10% of the after repair value needed in repairs. So what that means is that if the after repair value is $400,000, these properties needed at least, $400,000 in repairs. So that made,
so they needed $40,000 in repairs.
What did I say? 400?
Yeah.
I thank you for correcting me. 40,000, and that to me is significant. So,
well, let me stop you right there, because that point that you just made, traditionally we go on 20%. And so we're okay if the house needs 20%. So in that scenario that you just mentioned, if the house needed $80,000 in repairs, I'm happy all day long. Those numbers work for me. If you're saying that the properties that you found only needed 10%, which is $40,000, that means you're putting an additional $40,000 into your pocket.
And see that is actually significant, because a lot, like I just got a deal under contract, and that one needs 20% of the after repair value. I mean, it's a gut. It is a total gut. But that's what I found. So and thank you for helping me clarify that, because these deals, by getting them in the period of 1925 to 1980, they all need repairs. At least some need at least 10%, others need the 20% gut. So it's huge negotiating power for us, because they all need, work done on it, or performed on the property. And a couple of things I started doing, back up, when I bought this buy and hold list, I knew through my due diligence that the CARES Act and the HEROES Act had set aside $25 billion for investors, landlords to work in tandem with tenants to help pay for their back or delinquent rents. So what I did was, and I believe in business, in marketing, negotiating, sales, we always have to remember the acronym with it. What's in it for them? Because, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so being empathetic is a huge characteristic that we need to develop in business. I kind of think I was born with empathy just when I look back over my life, but we have to develop it as business owners. And what that means is stepping into their world and making what's important to them important to us. So when I bought the list of sellers, burned out real estate investors, and earlier I said I create my own copy. I wrote my direct mail letter, and it addressed 3 points to the investor. One, are you faced with having to sell your property because tenants aren't paying, due to the moratoriums? And if you do sell it, I'm interested in buying your property. And the third point was, but if you do want to keep your property, do you know how to apply for and successfully obtain the stimulus funding for you? And that got my phone ringing off, starting to ring. I mean, way back in April. And so people are still calling me now to buy their properties because now they can evict tenants. And so, so I would give them the information. This is where you need to call. This is what you need to do. And then I would periodically follow up with them to see how the process was going, because I want them to know I really care. But I made it known, I do want to buy your property, but if you want to keep it, I really do want to help you keep your property, because I really do want to serve you, because it's going to come back to me, maybe not from you, but it will come back. The universe will send that back to me. You reap what you sow, for good or for bad. And the sellers were saying, well, Miss Jackson, you should charge a fee for this consultation. I said, no, again, I just want to serve you. And I would tell them also, but just to show you how fast and easy it would be if I bought your house in the future, how about if I send you a no obligation purchase and sales real estate agreement? and I do it at 72%. My offers are at 72%, which does not include the repairs. And I do that just to stimulate their motivation, get them to call me so we can start a conversation. And I tell them, but my contract is contingent upon me coming to look at your property with my contractor. And it depends on what the exterior and interior of your property looks like. And then when I get there and then I, look at their property, the social distancing is working very well for me, because after we look at the property, I say, let's go back out and have a conversation. And I do that because I use the neighborhood as my marketing piece to say, okay, I understand this is important to you, but if you look at the neighborhood, at the properties that have been renovated, they don't have what's important to you. And I want to handle all the objections then and there on the spot. I'm priming their brain to say, for them to know, okay, I'm not getting my offer. She's not going to offer me that amount that I want. There was one seller, I went to his house, me and my contractor, and we walked into the basement and this mold hit us. And I said, okay, I smell mold right here. And he said, no, the mold is right here. And he took me and my contractor to another part of the house. I said, no, I don't smell it there. I smell it here. So I said to my contractor, if we buy this house, you're going to have to tear this wall down, because I smell mold and I'm not going to buy a house with mold. Or if I do, and before we do buy it, it has to be tested, because there's so many different types of mold.
No, absolutely true. I mean, speaking of mold, I love buying houses with mold. I mean, we say mold is gold.
Okay.
And the reason why we say that is because of the mold, you're able to negotiate
Absolutely
down. And so
Absolutely.
For me, I buy houses with mold. I have bought houses that have caught on fire. And primarily because it's just negotiating tools, negotiating chips that you're able to use. You mentioned that you buy houses at 72% of the
No,
average.
I don't know. That's my offer to them, to
Okay.
just stimulate their motivation. I don't buy houses at 72%. That's just to get them to call me, because
Okay.
I always tell them, and remember that 72% does not include the repairs.
Right.
So I always tell them it's contingent upon the exterior and interior, but I already have an idea on how much I'm going to pay for that house. For example, there was a person, he called me just to see what I would offer. I pulled the comps. I said 216. He said, "Oh, really?" But I already knew the most I would pay was 186.
So you're just offering the 216 just to get in the door.
To stimulate the motivation and start a conversation,
Okay.
a negotiation conversation. I do not buy properties at 72%. Absolutely not.
Okay.
And I always include mayo, always. After repair times 65, 70% minus repairs. But the 72% doesn't include the repairs. That's just to stimulate the motivation of the seller, get them to call me so I can negotiate and get it down to that 65 or 70%.
Okay. All right. That's smart. And so another aspect of wholesaling real estate is having a really good, strong cash buyers list. I think I mentioned that earlier. Where do you get your cash buyers list from?
I have built my cash buyers list over the years. I add to it frequently, but Gregory, you know that you're my go-to cash buyer, and I give you first right of refusal. But I do have other sources that also can close quickly, that can that are good, reputable people. If they can't close, then I consider them tire kickers and I take them off the list because.
Yeah, and that's basically how you determine your cash buyers list. You want to make sure that you have cash buyers or other investors that can deliver.
Absolutely, that's very important.
You're spending time and effort and money on finding these motivated sellers and negotiating with these motivated sellers.
Absolutely.
You want to make sure that once you put forth all that effort, that you're going to get the fruits of that labor.
Yeah.
So you're going to get paid. And if you're wholesaling, you're simply putting those motivated sellers under contract. And then now you're finding a cash buyer like myself that will take over that contract, or you'll assign that contract to someone like me for a fee.
Absolutely.
So number one, you want to make sure that that cash buyer can deliver. And then number two, you want to make sure that that cash buyer is more than willing to pay you your fee.
Absolutely. I will ask the cash buyer as I qualify them, do you have a problem with the amount of my wholesale fee? And if they say yes, I say, okay, thank you. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.
And so I've run across that too. And I've been wholesaling. I just remember one vividly where I was able to put a property under contract well below the formula that we use. I offered the opportunity to a cash buyer. He ran his numbers. He was more than happy to buy at what I was offering him. Once he saw how much money I was making, he killed the deal. He didn't want it. Even though the numbers worked for him, he didn't want me to make what I was making. I think I probably was making maybe $50,000 or $60,000 wholesale fee on that deal, because I found a property and I was really able to do a great job negotiating. Was unwilling to pay.
And my thought is, what difference does it make as long as the numbers are good?
As long as your numbers work, it's fine. So I quickly found another cash buyer. We closed on the deal. I've been on the other side of that, being a cash buyer, and we negotiated. I was happy with what I was making. The wholesaler sent me the contract, the sales contract, and the assignment agreement. Once I saw how much money they were making, which was in this case $120,000 wholesale fee, now I gasped a little bit, but I said, fine, my numbers are fine. My numbers are great, works for me. More than happy to pay that $120,000 wholesale fee.
Absolutely.
Now here's the power of wholesaling. They made $120,000 wholesale fee within 3 weeks. I closed that deal in 3 weeks. I made the same amount over a 6 to 9 month period. And so that's probably why you're thinking, I'm wholesaling, because there's little to no risk. You just have to find the deals. And for those out there that want to wholesale, your biggest challenge is finding the deals. Cash buyers, they don't either have the wherewithal to find deals, they don't have time to find deals. And so if you can find the deals, you can make, on average, wholesalers are making $15,000, $20,000 a deal. I know some people who are making $30,000, they average about $30,000, especially if they're dealing with like probate deals and things like that have a lot of equity. Or you can buy a list in a particular zip code where you can pull homeowners who have no equity or 50% equity, like you mentioned. And so you can get lists from that.
Absolutely.
And they market to those. But probate are probably the best because 70% of all the probate deals are free and clear mortgages. So there's lots of room for negotiation, and the personal representatives need to sell those properties. And so you have to put together a cash buyers list. There's networking events. We're actually having a networking event this coming Saturday where there'll be a ton of cash buyers there, auctions and referrals and things like that. But then you want to get to know your cash buyers and make sure, number one, they can close on your deals. So you want to get either, bank statements for proof of funds or a lender letter or something like that. And then they're willing to pay your fee.
Absolutely.
So you don't have to go through two different settlements. You close on the deal and then you turn around and then you sell it. That's a waste of closing costs.
It is. And I really
want one deal.
Yeah, I know people who make they'll make $80,000, $90,000 in a wholesale fee, and they'll do a double closing. And I say, why? Just interview your buyer, and if he or she has a problem, don't do business with them. It's really simple.
Right.
They insist on having this double closing, and I'm like, okay.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, sometimes you just have to negotiate a little more. Sometimes it depends on how important the deal is to you, but you can find, the cash buyers. There's a lot of very reputable, cash buyers.
Absolutely. And so a couple more questions for you. What have you, in terms of a wholesaler, any challenges that you see?
The only challenge that I see is not having customers. In my opinion, you should always have, people in your marketing funnel that you're through the negotiating and sales process. You're turning them into, cash buying customers, or people who buy our products, our service in this business. But if you don't have customers, you don't have a business. You really don't. And if you don't have customers, your business will die quickly. It'll die slow, but it'll die. And I had to learn that the hard way. And it cost me big time learning that mistake. And again, that's another subject for another time. But that cost me dearly. But I call myself the bounce back queen. So I came back, and
all right, let's do it. And so, I know I've said this already, but finding the deals, you've got to find the deals, and you've got to figure out what can you do and be consistent with it. Is it doing mail outs? Is it going to the probate office? Is it social media, bandit signs, cold calling, getting a virtual assistant to call for you? Whatever, networking, whatever that looks like, pick one or two, be great at it.
Absolutely.
Find deals that way. And be consistent.
And be consistent. Because for me, direct mail works very well, but I'm now implementing cold calling. And so direct mail, sending out the direct mail first, and then cold calling. And that's all done with virtual assistants. I was telling you earlier, Greg, that during COVID-19, I developed new systems and strategies, new routines and rhythms. And one of the things that I determined was that I was not going to do anything that in any task that does not produce a minimum of $1,000 an hour for me. So what does that look like? Just break down the numbers. If you close on a wholesale deal and your fee is $10,000 and it took you 4 hours during that whole process, then that's $2,500 an hour that you just made. So I do things like answer my phone. I negotiate because I enjoy that. As a founder and CEO, you have to keep your fingers on the pulse. So I do my marketing. I make sure I know what's going on. But I hire virtual assistants to make my phone calls, to do my direct mail. I don't do that. I answer my phone. I negotiate with them. I go out and look at the properties because I enjoy that. I enjoy staying engaged. It helps me with my negotiating techniques. I go out with my contractor, which lends, credibility, experience, and knowledge for me. But virtual assistants, absolutely. And whatever you're going to do, like my primary niche is virtual assistants, doing my direct mail and my cold calling.
Very good. Speaking of challenges, we know that real estate investing is a male-dominated field. Any challenges that you've seen, any biases that you've experienced being a female?
As long as I have been in this business, I had my first challenge this week. And I was telling myself, this person really doesn't want to do business with me because I'm a woman. And it was very, very difficult for me to really get the deal under contract. But there's a scripture in the Bible in Jeremiah 1:19 that says, and this is God talking, he said, they will fight against you, but they will not prevail against you, for I am with you, saith the Lord, to deliver you. And every time that fiery dart came into my mind, call that person and tell that person they're playing with you, I remembered that scripture, and that would just settle me. And I got the deal under contract. But I had to negotiate. I had to negotiate.
And so, I mean, that's what sales is all about. That's what business is all about. We all have obstacles. Absolutely. And I see a lot of females thriving in this space, in this industry. Absolutely. I see a lot of females thriving because a lot of the females, they understand the marketing side. They understand the business side of it, where a lot of males, and hopefully I don't get a lot of backlash from this, but a lot of the males don't understand. They kind of focus on kind of working, what I call working in the business versus kind of on the business. And working on the business is what's going to scale the business, is what's going to grow the business. And that's kind of what I've seen from you. You constantly work on your business to improve the business. We all know that if a business is not growing, it's dying. And a lot of people just kind of, they don't see that part of it. Like, you've got to really be a business owner and work on all the nuts and bolts of a business. That's what keeps you in business. That gives you the longevity of being in business. Talk about goals moving forward. What are some of your goals?
I do plan to start buying and holding. My business model in that aspect is still being developed right now. And the reason why is because of real estate being the ideal investment. With wholesaling, there are write-offs, but not the write-offs that you'll get with, buy and hold investing. It's buy and hold is the ideal investment. You buy, you have income, passive income, you can depreciate, you have equity, you have appreciation, and you can leverage it. And then the government, I love Uncle Sam. Uncle Sam will tell you exactly how to get the tax write-offs that you need. For example, if you invest in water, oil, gas, real estate, and food, you get tremendous tax write-offs. Now, the tax law changes. I'm not a CPA. I'm not giving tax advice. Check with your CPA. But anything that pertains to me, spirit, soul, body, financially, socially, I make sure I have my finger on the pulse. Even with my CPA, I make sure I have my finger on the pulse with anything I do. But I just study money. And if I can impart anything to any of you, become a student of money. Learn how to, learn about money. Learn how to make money. And what I started doing in this COVID environment is money that comes in out of my revenue, I put aside a certain amount for the next upcoming recession. There's always going to be a recession. There's always going to be businesses that are going to take a haircut. So be able to buy. In 2008, it was REOs. In COVID, it's burned out, tired landlords, real estate investors that have rental properties. And if you have the money, then you can pull the trigger, because cash is king.
And so I agree with you, and I do want to see you, using that cash that you're making, wholesaling real estate. We know that wholesaling and fixing and flipping are cash building strategies. We want to start the process of taking that cash and then now buying and holding for cash flow, appreciation, equity, but more importantly, generational wealth.
Absolutely.
So I don't know if I told you, but I actually bought a house today. I closed on a property in Landover, Maryland.
Congratulations.
A 3-bedroom, 1-bath today. Bought it for $150,000. I should be all in at about $200,000. So I bought it using a hard money lender. So I used a hard money lender to buy the property, and then I'm going to rent it out Section 8 with a voucher holder.
Absolutely.
In Prince George's County, the rents have gone up with voucher holders, Section 8, and so my goal is I should start off making, I don't know, maybe about $800 a month in positive cash flow. I'm going to refinance because hard money lenders is temporary financing. I'm going to refinance after I get my tenant in there and to permanent financing. There's a no doc investment loan. You spoke earlier about there's no more 203Ks for investors, right. But there are no doc loans for investors now. There's some new programs. They're called NONI loans.
Oh, that's good.
So I've gotten approved for that already, and I'll get all my money back, but also pay off the hard money lender, and then I'm going to start the process all over again with another property. Absolutely. That's called the BRRRR method. So I'm going to use the BRRRR method on this property in Landover, and I'm excited about that. Every time I buy a property, I'm excited, and so that's how you build wealth, though. That's how you build wealth. There's not a taxable event when you're buying and holding, when you're fixing and flipping, and when you're wholesaling. It's a taxable event because of the capital gain. And so I'm trying to build more wealth and buy more properties, more buy and holds. I have a portfolio. But what we do is we take the cash and then use that cash to then buy and hold, for long-term gains, long-term investment, long-term wealth, and to leave an inheritance, for our loved ones.
Absolutely. And as I said, I'm still, I'm a lifelong student, and it wasn't until the pandemic that I decided, because I've always heard you talk about buying holds, but it wasn't until the pandemic that it really resonated with me that, okay, and my business model is going to be Section 8 tenants, because if you buy it right, then if you buy your property right, then the amount that the tenants will pay or the amount that the government pays for the tenant will take care of the mortgage.
Yeah, I learned a long time ago, buy it right, pay it down, pay it off. And so if you buy it right, according to the formulas that we just talked about, your tenants will pay it down, or really it's the local government.
Absolutely.
That will pay it down. And then you eventually pay it off. And I do believe in that. A lot of people don't believe in paying off their mortgages. But one lesson that I learned from the recession, I had a small portfolio of about 13 properties in 2007, 2008, most of them in DC. The real estate industry got hit really, really hard. Nobody was buying houses because none of the lenders could lend, So I started selling off some of my properties. But the biggest lesson I learned was just go ahead and pay them off and figure out other tax write-off, other tax write-off options, but the buy and hold. And so that, I think one thing that I want to leave everybody with, one thing would be Wholesaling is great. Wholesaling is a entryway into real estate investing,
Absolutely.
but it's still active, what we call active income. You wholesale a property one time and you make money that one time, 10,000, 15,000, 20,000. It's not until you start buying and holding that you have what we call passive income. You buy that property one time and you make money over and over again, as long as you buy it right. And so I might start off with about $800 or $900 a month in passive income, but over the years, if I stay with Section 8, they go up. They actually went up. Prince George's County just went up, and it's phenomenal. You can get a 3-bedroom rental in Clinton, Maryland now. You can buy a 3-bedroom townhouse in Clinton, and Section 8 will pay you, I think it's like $3,100, something like that, for that. So they just went up. So it's really good.
That's very good.
And so talk about a gift. You said, and so Dorothy is going to be, we're going to have actually at, for those local to the DMV area, Saturday, I think it's October the 1st or 2nd.
I think it's the 2nd, I think.
So Saturday, October the 2nd, we're going to be at Martin's Cross Wednesday at 9 o'clock. Get there early at 8:30. We'll serve you breakfast, smoothies, and continental breakfast. We're going to talk about, and Dorothy's going to be there along with some other wholesalers and real estate investors. We're going to take a deeper dive into wholesaling. And we're also going to talk about marketing strategies to find properties. And so if I can put this, yeah. So if you want to go to join pgcinvest.com, you can register for the event on Saturday at Martin's Crosswinds. Go to joinpgcinvest.com. But Dorothy's going to be there, and Dorothy's got a gift for us. Talk to us about the gift.
Absolutely. I believe in serving people. And so I earlier said my primary marketing campaign is direct mail. And I use a company that does my direct mail pieces for me. And so I've worked out a special gift for all of you that are interested. Anyone that's interested in taking your marketing campaign, not to another dimension, not to another level, but in my opinion, to another trajectory. And you mix that with your cold calling, the techniques you've learned from Greg. So what they have allowed is a one time on your first production with them of 15. And that's good for 4 or 5 days. And if you're interested, you can call me or you can email me, and I will give you all the pertinent information. So if you're interested in direct mail marketing, they will give you, again, 15% one time only for on your first marketing production.
Very good. Very good.
And also, yes, I'm sorry, Greg, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that that you're going to be there Saturday, and
Absolutely.
you'll make the same offer on Saturday.
Absolutely. I will make the same offer on Saturday.
And so we've got 1 or 2 comments, and then I'm going to get you out of here, Dorothy. So Iana says, congratulations on the purchase. Thank you.
Thank you.
She's saying, what do you recommend for someone who isn't a W-2 anymore, and I don't yet have 2 years business income? What investment loans can I apply for? And so the answer is the loan that I'm going to get is a no-doc loan. They're not looking at any documentation. Wow. And so I purchased the property today using a hard money loan. So a hard money loan, they're looking, hard money lenders, they lend on the merits of the property. They don't lend on the merits of you as an individual. They will pull your credit score, but that's it. And so I was able to get a hard money loan today, closed on it. I'm going to renovate the property. I'm going to rent the property out, Section 8, and then I'm going to refinance that property using a loan vehicle It's called a NONI loan, but they're not going to look at any documentation. The only thing that they're going to look at is, again, your credit score.
That's good.
And you've got to have at least, I think it's a 620 or 630 credit score.
That's good.
And they're going to look at the lease. They're going to look at the lease. They're going to look at the lease. They're going to do an appraisal, and they're going to look at the lease. And that's it. That's all they look at. So they're lending on the merits of the deal, really.
Yeah.
And you minimize their risk by having a 620, 630 credit score, and you minimize their risk by having the property already rented out and it's already cash flow. That's all they look at. So they're not going to look at bank statements, W-2s, 1099s. They're not looking at any of that. You guys can contact me. You can contact me on my Instagram, Greg Bennett Invest. Let me see if I can find my Instagram up here. You can contact me with that program. Yeah, Greg Bennett Invest. You can contact me there. Those of you who know me, you can call me, and I'm more than happy to give you that information. As a matter of fact, you guys, we're going to have lenders at our event on Saturday that will talk about the program. Actually, we just sent our program to the our handout to the printer, and in that program, we'll have a flyer for the program that I'm going to be using. And I just mentioned it's going to be in that program. So you can get the information there on Saturday, or you can just call me, those of you who have my number, or just reach me on Instagram at Greg Bennett Invest. Last question, Dorothy.
Yes.
And so we call the podcast Big Life, the Blueprint to Building Black Wealth. And Big Life. So when I say that to you, Big Life, what resonates in your mind, Big Life?
The first thing that comes to my mind for me is worldwide, baby. You know, that's the first thing that comes to my mind. And really, it's just having a life where the whole gamut of a person's life, being spirit, soul, body, financially, and socially, is taken care of. Because when you look at the pie of wealth, money is one aspect of it, and a very, very important aspect of it. But including in that, big life, then we're supposed to, have peace and health and wealth, money, and lots of it, and joy, and, happily married, being happy if you're single, having obedient children. That's also important in that big life. So when I hear big life, it just takes care of the whole gamut of a person's life.
And being African American, does that hamper you and your mindset on achieving big life?
No, not at all. Because the way I look at life, I'm not only limitations. No one can stop me. Not the white man, not the black man, not the Asian man, not the Native American man. The only man that can stop me is this woman. That's it. And limited thinking. And I just will not ascribe to limited thinking, because what I've realized in poverty is you can have lots of money and still have a poverty mentality. A person that has lots of money, but I gotta hoard it because I don't know what the next recession is gonna bring. That's a poverty mentality. And you can have no money, because there were times as I was on this journey of life as a serial entrepreneur that I hit some very lonely places, but I never saw myself as a failure. I just said it's something that I'm missing. So I never had a poverty mentality. I do not have one, and I don't ascribe to it.
I feel the exact same way. There may be obstacles along the way. Lord knows I've had some obstacles along, in my journey, but it's my journey.
but there's always going to be obstacles, always. And to make it seem like it's not going to be, I hope I didn't attempt to do, I hope I did not disseminate that, because I've said, I think 3 times, at least 2, I found myself in some places, and that's a story for another time. But no, I've had tremendous, calamity and debacles and what looked like failure. But now, I always told myself it's going to come a time when, and that was even after I had been a success in real estate, between leaving the State Department and now, I've had what looks like calamity and what looked like debacle and what looks like failure. But I always told myself it's going to come a day when what looks like calamity is going to become my creativity. What looks like debacle is going to become my destiny, and what looks like failure is going to become my future. There's always been, as long as we're on planet Earth, we're going to have trials and tribulations, but our lives are not supposed to always be struggle. But no, there's going to be obstacles. There are going to be obstacles, but part of business is, figuring out how do you overcome the obstacles, because there's going to be obstacles, and things that just keep me focused, Gregory. If I can just say this quickly, I'm an NFL fan. I love the game. To me, NFL is like Christmas. It's my favorite time of the year. But I look at, teams that have triumphant, even Cleveland, the Cavaliers under LeBron James. Cleveland had never won a Super Bowl. Oh, no. It had been 50 years. But and no one in the history of the NBA championships had ever come from an 0-3 deficit. They came back from an 0-3 deficit, won, and brought a championship, not a Super Bowl, a championship, an NBA championship to that city after 50 years. And when you persevere, not only do you win, but you break records. You get the fame, the fortune, the power, the notoriety, all that comes in with it. And then the last thing is the Super Bowl, I think it was 52. I'm sure some of my friends will correct me, but it was New England Patriot and Atlanta. No one in the history of the Super Bowl had ever come from a 25-point deficit. And I learned something watching that game. When they were behind 25 points and the camera would pan to Tom Brady, he wasn't on the sideline saying, "Coach, Belichick, I think we need to go fishing because no one has ever come from a 25-point." No, he was reading his plays. And then when Atlanta fumbled the ball, I learned there's a sound that's made in the atmosphere when the tide comes back, and the tide, you guys, always comes back. I don't care how miserably you're struggling. I think I messed up my hair. I don't care how miserably you're struggling, you guys. If you have to, rest, but persevere, because winners never quit and quitters never win. And I think about, and there's an atmosphere that's made, a sound in the atmosphere that's made when the tide is about to come back. And I say that because when Atlanta fumbled the ball, they panned over and showed Brady, and he jumped up like, "Look, what?" And then he got the ball, game over. We know they won the Super Bowl. So you guys, please, if I'm attempting to make it look like my life has been just peaches and cream, you guys, my life has been nothing. It has not been peaches and cream, but I'm still here. I'm still in the game. I tell myself on a regular basis, I don't care if the odds are 1 billion, 100 million, 100,000 to 1. I'm still getting in the game. Somebody has to win. Might as well be me. Wayne Gretzky once said, "You miss 100% of the shots you don't take." So please be encouraged and stay in the game, everyone.
Girl.
If you need to reach me for that special gift, you can reach me on my phone at area code 202-599-6722. 202-599-6722. Or you can email me at realestatecapital@yahoo.com, and capital is TOL, not TAL.
So thank you for all that. We know that defeat is not in the fall, but in the failure to rise. And so when I come against challenges, and Lord knows I've had my share, that's what I think to myself. Defeat is not in the fall, but in the failure to rise.
That's
And
good.
so you keep rising.
You keep rising.
And to hear Dorothy preach again, come out Saturday. Martin's Crosswinds, for those that are local, 9 o'clock, 8:30 if you want breakfast. We'd love to have you. Dorothy will be there amongst other people. I'm gonna put a pulpit up there for you, Dorothy, so you can preach.
I just love people. I really do. And I want to see people succeed, and I want people to win, because there's enough for everybody that really wants to get involved. And I just want God's best for you. That's all. There's just enough for everybody.
So, Dorothy, I can't thank you enough. I can't thank you enough for being here, for inspiring and motivating and delivering the word, and delivering the information, because it's what people need, especially people of color.
Absolutely.
That's what we need. And that's what this podcast is all about. Just kind of really inspiring each other and allowing my audience to see people like you of color that are doing it, that have taken huge risks in their careers, quitting their jobs to pursue something that's going to elevate them even higher. And so I just want to thank you for being here. We've known each other for a long time. We've done business together for a long time. You told me about this property in Capitol Heights. I can't wait to go look at it. I'd love to buy it and hold it myself. So we'll continue to do business.
Absolutely.
And I consider you a friend.
Absolutely.
And we'll always stay friends first, and then in business later.
Absolutely, because your professionalism, your integrity, your character is second to none. You're probably the only, and I maybe have two other people that I really trust. Well, one other besides you, that I would tell a wholesale deal or tell someone about before I put it under contract. Because that's why I taught myself the business, because I made that mistake before and got burned.
All right. So thanks for everything. We'll see you on Saturday. Hopefully see you guys Saturday. And so here's what I want you guys to do. I want you guys to dream big. Despite whatever obstacles you may be going through or have gone through. But I believe it begins with a big dream. And then from that big dream, it's big goals. You've got to have big goals and big plans. You've got to choose a big model so that you're not reinventing the wheel. Choose Dorothy, model yourself after her, and then have big habits. What are your big habits? What are the habits that you're going to use to get to those big dreams and big goals? But more importantly, at the end of the day, let's all have a big life. Let's have a big life. The big life that Dorothy described, the big life that however you describe a big life. Let's have that big life. No excuses not to have that big life. And let's help each other. If one of us wins, we all win.
Absolutely.
All right, you guys, have a great rest of your Wednesday. I will be back with more valuable information next Wednesday. If you're available, if you guys are in town and want to see myself, Dorothy again, come out to Martin's Crosswinds, those that are in the DMV, this Saturday, October the 2nd. And just have a great day. Thanks again, Dorothy. You guys take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.